The story of Tokyo is not a story of a city, but of a living, breathing paradox. It is a place where the 22nd century arrives every morning at 5 a.m. with the first departure of the Yamanote line. Yet it is a place where the ghosts of the Edo period still linger in the scent of incense and the rustle of bamboo. To see Tokyo is to see the peak of human ambition, a shimmering grid of steel and light that defies the very concept of limits. But to feel Tokyo is to recognize something much older, the pulse of a land that has been worshipped, reshaped, and revered for over a millennium. This is a journey through the iron jungle and the hidden emerald heart of the world's greatest megalopolis. We begin in the center of the storm, Shinjuku. From the observation decks of the Metropolitan Government Building, the city looks like a motherboard, an infinite circuit board stretching toward the hazy silhouette of Mount Fuji. There is no visible end to it. It is a landscape of high-rises that house more people than entire nations. The scale is incomprehensible, a testament to the great acceleration. Here, the nature of Tokyo is artificial, a forest of neon signs, a canopy of LED screens, and the relentless flow of people that resembles the migration of a massive, synchronized species. At Shibuya Crossing, the scramble is a dance of controlled chaos, a human tide that ebbs and flows with the precision of a clockwork heart. But even here, in the peak of urbanization, the Japanese philosophy governs the rhythm. It is the silence between the announcements, the bow between strangers, the invisible order that prevents a city of 38 million from collapsing under its own weight. As we move away from the neon glare, we encounter the city's first layer of defense, the sacred voids. In the heart of the concrete lies the Meiji Jingu Shrine, a cathedral of trees that defies the laws of urban development. This is not a park in the Western sense. It is a man-made forest, planted a century ago by 110,000 volunteers who brought saplings from every corner of the Japanese archipelago. It was a grand experiment in ecological engineering, designed to become a self-sustaining ecosystem that would look as though it had stood for eternity. Today, as you walk the gravel paths, the roar of Shinjuku vanishes. The air temperature drops by several degrees. The scent of damp earth and ancient camphor trees replaces the smell of ozone and exhaust. This is the lungs of Tokyo, a place where the city remembers its origins. The towering torii gates, made from 1,700-year-old cypress wood, serve as a portal between the mundane and the divine, reminding us that in Tokyo, the skyscraper and the spirit are neighbors. To truly grasp this city, one must look at how it treats its smallest spaces. In the West, nature is often seen as something expansive, vast national parks, wide open horizons. But in Tokyo, nature is a masterpiece of the miniature. Consider the Tsubo Niwa, the tiny courtyard gardens that exist in the gaps between traditional houses and even modern office complexes. These are spaces no larger than a few square meters, yet they contain the entire universe. A single jagged rock represents a mountain. A patch of raked white gravel represents the crashing waves of the Pacific. A solitary fern represents the ancient forests of the north. This is the art of shake, or borrowed scenery. It is a spatial sleight of hand where architects align a window or a gate so that a distant tree or a mountain peak appears to be part of the immediate room. In Tokyo, this philosophy allows the resident to escape the crushing weight of the concrete. When you walk through the Neizu Museum's garden, you are technically in the middle of Minato-ku, one of the most expensive and urbanized districts on Earth. Yet, because of the way the stone paths wind and the way the bamboo screens the skyscrapers, you are effectively in a mountain pass. This is the nature of the mind, a psychological refuge constructed with surgical precision. It is a reminder that in a megacity, peace is not found by leaving, but by looking closer. The water of Tokyo is its silent history. Once known as the City of Water, Edo, as it was called before 1868, was a network of canals and rivers that functioned like the veins of a living body. While the post-war reconstruction paved over many of these waterways to make room for highways, the Sumida River remains the city's grand artery. It flows with a quiet, heavy dignity, carrying the memories of the great Kanto earthquake and the fire bombings of the past. Today, the riverfront is a place of rebirth. Along the Sumida, the Shitamachi or low city atmosphere survives. In Asakusa, the Sensoji Temple stands as a beacon of resilience, its crimson gates mirrored in the glass of the nearby Tokyo Skytree. This contrast is the essence of the city, the oldest temple and the tallest tower in a single frame. The river is also the stage for the most profound natural ritual in the city, the Hanami. When the cherry blossoms bloom along the banks, the city pauses. This is not just about aesthetics, it is a communal recognition of mono no aware, the pathos of things, the beauty of the fleeting. For 1 week, the pink petals fall like snow, a fragile reminder that even a city of steel is subject to the seasons. The Japanese phrase kachu fugetsu, literally flowerbird wind moon, describes the traditional aesthetics of nature. In Tokyo, this is not a poetic abstraction, it is a survival guide. Each season in the city is a distinct sensory world. Spring begins with the plum blossoms in February, a subtle, spicy scent that cuts through the lingering winter chill. But the true transformation occurs with the sakura. This is when the city undergoes a collective emotional shift. In places like Chidorigafuchi, the moats of the imperial palace are choked with pink petals, creating a hana ikada, or flower raft. The nature here is performative. Millions of people gather under the trees for Hanami, but the real story is the night illumination, where organic beauty meets synthetic light. Summer in Tokyo is an atmospheric wait. It is the season of the Yudachi, the sudden evening thunderstorms that wash the city in a violent, cleansing downpour. The nature of summer is found in the sound. The cicadas create a wall of noise so thick it feels like a physical texture. To the Tokyoite, this sound is the soundtrack of nostalgia and exhaustion. This is also the season of fireworks, which the Japanese consider flowers of fire. The sky over the Sumida River becomes a garden of light, a temporary bloom that mimics the transience of the cherry blossom. As the humidity breaks, the city turns to gold. The ginkgo tree is the official symbol of Tokyo, and nowhere is this more evident than in the Icho Namiki. The leaves turn a shade of yellow, so saturated it looks filtered. Autumn is the season of momijigari, the hunt for red maples, where the death of the year is celebrated in a riot of color. Winter is the season of clarity. The dry wind blows from the mountains, stripping the city of its haze. This is the only time when Mount Fuji, the silent sentinel 100 kilometers away, feels like it is part of the city's skyline. Winter nature is structural. The bare branches of the cherry trees and the rope umbrellas protecting the pines. But to see the wild side of the capital, one must travel west, beyond the reach of the neon. Tokyo is unique among world capitals because its administrative boundaries encompass everything from high-density slums to alpine peaks. The Okutama region is the frontier of the prefecture, a world of limestone gorges, turquoise lakes, and emerald mountains. Here, the Tama River, The same river that provides drinking water for millions is a rushing torrent carved into the rock. Mount Takao, the most visited mountain in the world, serves as the bridge between the urban and the wild. On its slopes, the Japanese cedar trees grow thick and tall, their roots tangled with the foundations of ancient Buddhist monasteries. This is the domain of the Tengu, the mountain spirits of folklore. Here, the wildlife returns, the Japanese macaque, the tanuki, and the giant flying squirrel. In the autumn, these mountains burn with the intensity of koyo. The reds and golds are so vivid they seem to vibrate against the blue of the sky, a natural spectacle that rivals any light show in Ginza. We often think of Tokyo as a place where animals have been pushed out, but the reality is a strange, adaptive coexistence. The jungle crow is the true king of Tokyo. These are not the modest birds of the countryside. They are massive obsidian black creatures with heavy beaks that have learned to thrive on the city's waste and rhythm. They watch the traffic lights. They understand the subway schedules, and they have built an empire in the canopies of Ueno Park. They are the shadows of the megacity, a reminder that wild intelligence is never far away. In the moats and ponds, the Nishikigoi carp represent a different kind of nature, the curated, living jewel. In the gardens of the new Otani Hotel or the ponds of Sensoji, these fish can live for decades, some even over a century. Then there are the reclaimed residents. In the back streets of Yanaka, the cat capital of Tokyo, the feline population has become a part of the local ecology, worshipped and fed by a community that sees them as guardians of the old world charm. Even the tanuki, the mythical raccoon dog, still stalks the shadows of the imperial palace and the university campuses, a shape-shifting ghost from the folklore that refuses to be paved over. The relationship between the Tokyoite and nature is one of meticulous care. This is a city where nature is often miniaturized, curated, and placed in a frame. In the traditional gardens, like Rikugien or Hamarikyu, every stone, every pond, and every pine tree is placed with the precision of a poem. Hamarikyu is particularly fascinating. It is a tidal garden where the water level in the ponds rises and falls with the tides of Tokyo Bay. It is a dialogue between the Pacific Ocean and the Shogun's former hunting grounds. Here you can sit in a tea house on an island, sipping matcha, while the skyscrapers of Shiodome loom overhead like giants from a different dimension. This is the borrowed scenery technique, incorporating the distant skyline into the composition of the garden, blending the work of man with the work of time. Tokyo's relationship with nature is also embedded in its architecture. Modern Japanese architecture treats light and wind as building materials. In the Omotesando district, glass and concrete mimic the translucency of water and the branching patterns of the Zelkova trees. The city is designed to manage the Kaze no Michi, or wind paths. Because of the extreme summer heat, architects study how to funnel the cool breezes from Tokyo Bay through the skyscraper canyons. The buildings are not obstacles to nature, they are instruments played by the elements. This is a functional ecology using the laws of physics to bring the comfort of the natural world into the heart of the machine. The use of komorebi, the dappled sunlight that filters through leaves, is a recurring theme in Tokyo's interior design, an attempt to heal the nature deficit of the modern worker. In the 21st century, Tokyo is undergoing a green revolution. New developments like Azabudai Hills are designed as landscape cities where buildings are draped in vertical gardens and urban farms are integrated into the rooftops. The architect Kengo Kuma uses thousands of cedar slats to evoke the feeling of a traditional forest shrine, making buildings that disappear into the environment. To speak of nature in Tokyo without speaking of Shinto is impossible. Shinto is the indigenous spirituality of Japan, a belief system where every rock, every waterfall, and every ancient tree is inhabited by a kami, or spirit. Tokyo is a city of 1,000 shrines, and each one is a pocket of preserved ecology. When you see a massive tree in the middle of a construction site with a sacred straw rope tied around it, you are seeing the limit of human power. The developers will build around that tree because to cut it down would be to disturb the spirit of the land. This creates a patchwork nature. Tokyo is not a continuous green space, but a series of sacred islands in a sea of concrete. This spiritual map of the city is what keeps it grounded. Whether it is the high shrine, where the monkeys are messengers of the gods, or the small Inari shrines hidden in the basements of Ginza, the connection to the earth is never fully severed. The city is a temple to the future, built on the foundations of an animistic past. Finally, we return to the water. To stand at the edge of the Odaiba waterfront and look out at the Rainbow Bridge is to see the human conquest of the bay. But the bay is just a gateway. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government governs a chain of volcanic islands that stretch into the deep Pacific, the Izu Islands and the Ogasawara Islands. On Miyakejima, the inhabitants have lived in the shadow of an active volcano for centuries, sometimes wearing gas masks to survive sulfuric fumes. This is the violent nature of Tokyo, the reminder that the city sits on the ring of fire. Further south, 1,000 kilometers from the city center, the Ogasawara Archipelago, the Galapagos of the Orient, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are no trains here, no convenience stores. There is only the Bonin Blue water. Here, the nature of Tokyo is raw and prehistoric. It is a place of endemic species, of humpback whales breaching in the moonlight, and of spinner dolphins playing in the wake of boats. It is the extreme limit of the city's reach. A reminder that the Tokyo identity is broad enough to include both the world's busiest railway station and a silent coral reef. Tokyo is a city that has been destroyed and rebuilt many times by fires, by earthquakes, and by war. Each time it rises faster and stronger, but this resilience is rooted in the Japanese understanding of the cycle of life. Nothing is permanent. The city is like the cherry blossom, beautiful because it is fleeting, powerful because it knows it can be lost. This is why the people of Tokyo cherish the moss on a temple stone as much as the glass of a new tower. They understand that the nature of Tokyo is not something separate from the city, but the very soul that inhabits it. As the sun sets over the Kanto Plain, the transition is magical. The sky turns a bruised purple, and the lights of the city begin to flicker on, one by one, until the entire basin is a glowing carpet of embers. At this moment, the boundary between the stars and the city disappears. You realize that Tokyo is perhaps the most complex ecosystem ever created by our species. It is a place where you can find a 500-year-old bonsai tree on the balcony of a high-tech laboratory. It is a place where a businessman will stop his frantic pace to bow to a flowering plum tree. It is a city that has conquered the future, but refuses to let go of the earth. Tokyo teaches us that we do not have to choose between technology and the wild. We can have both. We can live in the world's most advanced megacity and still hear the wind in the bamboo. We can build towers that reach for the heavens and still keep our feet planted in the sacred soil. Tokyo is a promise that even in the heart of the iron jungle, the spirit of nature will always find a way to bloom. As the last trains of the night pull into their stations and the neon begins to dim, a profound stillness settles over the city. It is the same stillness you find in the deep woods of Okutama or the silent shrines of Ueno. In this quiet, Tokyo breathes. It waits for the dawn, ready to begin the cycle again. A city of infinite motion, forever anchored by the eternal rhythm of the natural world. This is not just a destination. It is a vision of how humanity might one day reconcile its greatest achievements with the world that gave us life. From the peaks of the West to the depths of the southern seas, Tokyo remains an infinite tapestry, woven from the threads of neon, steel, and a green, ancient soul that refuses to be forgotten.